So the first step is to take the, the biggest, thickest brush that's going to hold the most water, and you put it in the water and squish it on the bottom until all the bubbles come out. And then just put water on the tiles, and don't really worry too much about getting it all even. Part of what we want to do is get it to be a little bit random. So just put lots of water in some areas and not very much in others, and it's okay if you don't cover it perfectly. It's actually better if there's some spots that don't have any water at all. And then take your paint. So pick one color, and I'm going to pick this teal color and just put some in. And you're not really painting anything or painting a thing at this point. You're just putting color in, and it's the water. When it hits the water, you'll see it will bloom out, and it will kind of like move around in places where there's less water. It's not going to do that as much. You'll get harder edges. So this is just getting in, letting the chaos of, see how that goes through, the chaos of the way that the pigment interacts with the water just really happen. If you're thinking of doing a landscape, then I recommend putting in some horizontal lines. That tends to kind of help things look more landscapey. And then you take your next color. It doesn't really matter because you're not making a thing. You are just going in and letting this paint do what it's going to do when it hits the water. A couple of tips to make it look, possibly make you a little happier with it as we progress, is to make sure that you're not doing anything too symmetrical, and that colors are clumping in various places. So it's, you see I'm not putting purple uniformly across everything. I'm not doing anything that has symmetry. You can experiment with some thicker, laying down some, like, less water on your brush and with your color, and more water. So that was a little bit less. Here I've got a lot more. See how that paint is different. You can mix some of it through. Again, just try not to get too symmetrical, and then come in with your last color and do the same thing. It's okay if there are some white spaces left. That's all fine. As we get further in, you'll see how this sort of works to your advantage. What we're going to do is we're going to get a lot of stuff like atmospheric effects and landscape effects and kind of things that make up a little scene for free, just because of the way that the paint behaves in the water. And you can leave some areas unpainted if you want to. That's okay too. I'll leave that spot unpainted. And then if you want to start getting some textures in, you can take the end of a pencil or a pen or another paintbrush and sort of drag it through. Sometimes it can be fun to get some kind of sort of circular and mixy shapes. Again, we're not trying to actually make something specific. We're just trying to make something that looks fun and pretty and kind of abstract as we go through. So that's the first layer. So after the first layer dries, you'll see some kind of interesting effects that happen. Sometimes, like here you can see that some of the pigments have sort of separated and made these sort of granulated things. There's places where it mixes, places where the edges are harder or softer. So there's a lot of just sort of beautiful things that watery chaos layer gives you. When after that dries and I'm looking at that, I start to do that game that you do when you're looking at clouds and you start to see pictures in them. So I'm like, I don't know, what do I see in these? What do these look like? And so this one, I immediately see like some kind of an old tree here and maybe a hillside. And this looks like this, because I'm from Oregon and I spend time on the coast. I see kind of the Pacific Ocean here with high cliffs, and this is kind of Haita Beach here and maybe sun reflected in it. And I don't know, I look at this one and I'm not really sure what I see. So sometimes when I'm not really sure what's going on, I'll just turn them around. I'll turn them over and see what else I see. So when I turn it this way, I see like a road going back this way with some trees on the side, and this is a sky, and this is maybe, you know, trees and branches that are where the canopy is sort of arcing up over the road. So that's kind of where I start, and I start thinking about, okay, how am I going to bring that image that I see out and more prominently? So I'm gonna just demo on this little tile here. So one thing I might do is I'll start adding things that are going to start bringing that out. So if I'm looking at this as being one landmass, I might come in and just clean up that edge, make it a little bit. I'm not going to use that brush. I'm going to use this smaller cat's tongue brush. Again, press it in, get the bubbles out first, and I'm going to take some of this purple. The front of the things that are in the foreground are brighter and warmer than things in the background, so I'm going to just start putting a little bit more of an intense purple here in the foreground to kind of start bringing out this landmass that I see. So this is additive, adding paint, and I see some tree roots here, so I'm going to just sort of paint in these, sort of start painting in something that looks like kind of the roots to the trees. Here, this got a little heavy, I don't want, so here's where I'm going to start showing you some subtractive techniques. So if you're like, wait, that was just way too much, you can come in with a Kleenex or a paper towel and sort of dab it off. You need to, like, a lot of people get really afraid and think that, oh, it's paint, it's permanent, but this is absolutely nothing is permanent with this. So like kind of messed up this edge where I was trying to make it look more like a complete mountain, and now it doesn't look like that at all. It's all bleeding into the sky. So where's my light? I think there's like a light here, or the sun might be over here. So this whole thing is a little bit backlit, and I'm going to start using some subtractive tools. So the subtractive tools that I've brought, one is this. It's sort of like a little pen nib, and you can, because this is clay board, you can just scratch right into it. Another one that I've got is this, which is a crosshatch tool, and this will make crosshatch, sort of crosshatch patterns like that. And I've got this, which makes sort of big, bold grass patterns. I'm going to hold off on that one for a moment, and I'm going to use this one, which is a little, this is a fiberglass scratcher tool, and it's kind of like an eraser. So first I'm going to go in and I'm going to make my source of light, my sun, here toward the bottom of the sky. You see I'm just like actually just taking off a fair amount of the paint that way, and it gives it kind of a nice glow in there. And then here where I've kind of messed up my edge, I think I'm just going to make this, draw this edge in as you know, an edge that might be sunlit, and this side of the tree might be sunlit. So these are using some of these scratchboard techniques to start removing things and putting some things in, taking some things out. I'm going to add a little bit more. Now that I know there's sun here, I can start adding shadow over to this side. I'll come back in and make that darker in our final layer. And then I'm also going to show you lifting. So this is where we take off some of the watercolor paint, and you just take a stiff brush, a small stiff brush works best. And like, I don't know, I kind of want this edge to be a little bit gone, and you just take the water and it reactivates the paint, and then you can dab it off. So this is a great way to soften edges or to get rid of a lot of paint. I'm going to show you over on this tile here because I don't want to now that my scene is starting to develop there, I don't want to mess with it too much. So I've got these kind of branchy shapes that are starting, and maybe I want some of them to be bolder here. So you just take the water by itself. It's going to pick up a little bit of the paint, so sometimes you have to do it more than once. And you just paint through there. It will literally lift up the paint. So this is lifting, and this is how you get rid of the paint. It's because of the way that the clay board is. It makes it a very easy surface to lift paint from, and you can get these sort of effects. And you can also get rid of mistakes that you've made. So this right here, where I had let that purple bleed a little bit into the sky where I sort of didn't like that, and just lift out some of that purple. So that is the next layer, is to look at your tiles, see what you see in them, and then start developing the surface with both the additive and the subtractive tools to start bringing out where you might have different objects, or where you want light to come through, or thinking about the light and the dark. And that's what we'll be doing next. This is the last demo I'm going to show you, and at this point you've been introduced to lots of water versus little water, kind of how to use the paint in both an uncontrolled and controlled way, and in subtracting things by using the scratchboard tools or by lifting the watercolor paint off. So this is the last that I'm going to add. One is a dark color, and two is glitter and other ephemera, and this idea of what we're going to put in the foreground to turn this from something that's still pretty abstract into something that's going to read as a scene with depth. So the first of all, find a dark you want out of the different tone darks, and what I've picked for this is just the neutral gray color. And when things are in the background, they tend to be cooler, so closer to blue, and they tend to be duller, so closer to gray. And sometimes I can use the dark to kind of push the back edge of something back. So first thing I'm going to do is take just a small amount of this neutral gray and this is a glaze. I'm going to just put a little bit So in this background, over the paint that was there, kind of bring it back a little bit. But so this is still a very, very backlit scene with the light there coming through. And I'm also going to start using my small brushes. So there's a very tiny brush on the back end of these. These are liners, and you can draw and get some sort of finer strokes with them. So the way that you use the liner, the small brushes, is not by putting them in like that, but by getting paint throughout the entire long length of that bristle, and then you can lay down very fine lines. So I'm going to refine the roots here a bit. I think I'm going to put in some sort of grass-like shapes here toward the foreground of this. The trick to making a foreground kind of pop out, and why we're going to put the little objects and things on, is that by putting something like a silhouette of something, so here I'm putting these grasses here, this signals to your eye that there's something in the front of everything else, so it gives it that depth. And again, I'm trying to make these not all completely the same. So some are thick, some are thin, some are tall, and I'm not doing them like evenly all the way across, because in nature, grasses don't grow evenly, right? They are clumped in some places and not in other places. Put these, let's see, these are in front of the sun, they're in front of the tree. The tree looks a little bit bland to me, so I'm going to go in, and I think that tree needs some leaves. So this is another thing you're doing in this kind of final but lengthy layer that we're doing, is starting to go in and add your details. Now your tree is kind of far away in this, so we don't want these leaves to be super detailed, but I am going to put in a little sort of leaf texture. Again, my light is here, so I'm going to put kind of some shading into the tree over here. But less over there on that side, and the tree trunk. Also going to put a little bit of dark shadow over here on this side. What you're seeing here is what happens when you have more paint on the tile than you have on your brush, and then it starts lifting when you don't want it to. So what I really should be doing is waiting for that to dry, and then coming back in. But this is just a demo, so now you're seeing some of the things that can happen. And then I put too much water on it. Again, nothing is anything that you can't recover from. I'm just gonna dab some of that up and go in and fix it later. So starting to bring in these sort of foreground things that are going to signal that there's some space and depth to this. And then you can start incorporating other things. So one thing I always put into my pieces is some kind of like a creature or a person, or it's something that is more detailed, that kind of sets something into this setting. And I usually will paint that in, but if you're not comfortable painting in a little thing, you can also use stencils So if I were to cut out sort of these leaves and that butterfly and cut, you know, put this there, or I could put in, you know, something like that if I didn't want to be drawing in grasses. So you can cut this in and glue it. I also have pens, so you can draw it in if that feels more comfortable. And I'm just gonna paint something in. So I kind of liked that butterfly in the sky, so I'm gonna get my little liner here, just full of my dark color. So let's put a little butterfly over here against the brightness. A little tiny butterfly. My foreground has gotten pretty dark, and that so you can put in, so you could lift out and do some other colors, or I have some Posca markers, and you can go in with these paint pens, which are water soluble, but they are opaque. And with these, and we're gonna make some flowers here. Suggestions of flowers, but they're brightly colored and they're in the front, so this is going to help us again get that sort of sense of depth, that these things are in front of the other things that are going on. And then just for fun, because this is demo time, I'm going to paint in something that's not in the foreground, that's way in the distance. Just going to put a little swing, tree swing. And a person on it. This is not, you know, great. It's my demo piece, but this is just to demonstrate kind of how you might build a scene up out of your starting stuff. So, oh, glitter. I wanted to show you the glitter. So this is the same medium that's in the watercolors, and you can mix it with the glitter and paint it on. So I picked this color because I was thinking of the orange of the tree, and that glitter might look nice as leaves. So you don't need very much of this at all, just the tiniest little drop like that. Then these are, careful with these because they are glitter, and I have some small palette knives that you can use as a scoop. I need to scoop some glitter onto that medium, and you can just use your brush to mix it. I like using this kind of square-ended one. So you mix the glitter in, and then you paint it on, like just paint with a brush. So it's getting on. It's the end of July here, so I might be looking forward to autumn with my color choices on this demo tile here. Yeah, there's a lot more I would do to this if you know, or will do to it after this demo is done. But that's the idea of what you'll be doing next. So go ahead.